All right, some big breaking news coming in right on top of the bulletin. Prime Minister Narendra Modi is meeting President Pranab Mukherjee at the Rashtrapati Bhavan as we speak. Along with him is also senior leader BJP's LK Advani. Cabinet expansion, as we've been reporting, is likely to be on the agenda. Smita Sharma now joining me for the latest on this. Smita, what updates can you share with our viewers?
In fact, Sana, what we are learning is there was a pre-scheduled function at Rashtrapati Bhavan, in fact, because of which Mr. Advani is there at the President's house right now. There are a couple of other Member of Parliaments as well who have been invited. But of course, there is that serious possibility of Mr. Narendra Modi, the Prime Minister, discussing that cabinet reshuffle with President Pranab Mukherjee. Now, will that be done really right this weekend itself is something that we'll have to just wait and watch, whether it's a Sunday or a Monday, because he's going to be in his constituency in Varanasi over the weekend. If it doesn't get right now, then perhaps he will have to wait for the winter session of Parliament to end, which will be sometime after 23rd of December, because on 11th he really sets out for the tour of Myanmar for the ASEAN summit, and then there's that G20 summit in Brisbane, the other bilaterals in Australia, following up with a tour to Fiji. So clearly, but what top sources are telling headlines today at the moment is that there is that nod that has come in from Mr. Manohar Parrikar, the Chief Minister of Goa, that he will be moving to New Delhi eventually as and when the next reshuffle is announced, that he is now going to in fact look at the cabinet berth in New Delhi, for which we are expecting the defence portfolio to come his way.
Absolutely, Smita, but it may happen sooner than we're expecting, as you're mentioning, because the Prime Minister is scheduled to leave for a couple of visits thereafter, and already reports telling us that 3 lists have already been prepared by those who the Prime Minister really trusts, and several names we've been reporting could feature in that list of cabinet expansion. This is also the first big expansion that Prime Minister Modi will be initiating ever since he took up as the Prime Minister. Give us a sense of what we're learning, which are the other names that are doing the rounds as of now.
See, clearly, this is a reshuffle that people were expecting post the monsoon session. In fact, if you remember, when Mr. Arun Jaitley took charge as the defence minister, that very day in the ministry, he said that, I am like an interim arrangement. Very soon the ministry will have another full-fledged minister, because he really has a lot in his hands. He's handling finance, he's handling corporate affairs. There are a lot of economic groupings right now. You have that next budget coming up in 2015, for which a lot of big-ticket items are really lined up that Mr. Modi wants to implement. So, we all know that as far as portfolios are concerned, distribution is concerned, these are cards that Mr. Modi keeps very, very close to his heart. And also the BJP President Amit Shah as well, they do not reveal their cards. Last time around, in fact, when he was swearing in, as the Prime Minister, if you remember, there was that entire lineup of people across outside of Gujarat, Southern, where news came in that it was almost like leaders were going in and making presentations to the Prime Minister, and they really weren't sure what portfolio was going to come in their way. But we do hear that there are 2-3 things here in mind that Mr. Modi does have. States like Uttarakhand, West Bengal, which is really the big project for Amit Shah now in the next elections, or Himachal Pradesh, which are so far unrepresented. We could see faces coming in from these states being represented. Some of the ministers of state with independent charges like Nirmala Sitharaman or Prakash Javadekar, they could be elevated to a full cabinet portfolio. And others, of course, could be, their burden could be in a way distributed for people like Ravi Shankar Prasad.
Smita, hang on with me. I'm going to come back to you in just a bit. Let's also update our viewers. What we are learning from our sources is that after a late night meeting with Prime Minister Modi, and as Smita was mentioning earlier as well, Manohar Parrikar has agreed in fact to move to New Delhi, and for that he will have to give up the Chief Ministership of Goa. Several names doing rounds there as well. Smita, so it seems almost likely that it will be that Parrikar will be the next Defence Minister, although formal announcement is yet to be made. The finality is yet to be worked upon.
Well, for sure, he's definitely moving into the Union Cabinet is what we know. Now, defence 99% it looks like the portfolio coming his way. There could always be that last minute change. Remember when he came out of 7 Racecourse Road last evening with his meeting with Mr. Modi, when he was faced, of course, by those questions from media. That point in time, he denied all those speculations. He just said that I've come in to discuss issues on Goa. This morning, of course, he was in Goa Southern. We tried reaching out to him as well. He left by a morning flight to Goa, but then sources telling us that really there were those late night discussions, and he has now shown that willingness to be accommodated in Delhi, in the cabinet. You know, there are also leaders like, in fact, Raman Singh, perhaps the Chief Minister of Chhattisgarh, who's believed that, you know, there would have been some interest in shifting him to Delhi, but apparently he's not keen really to leave his state. Then, of course, you have names like Jayant Sinha, who is Yashwant Sinha's son, the former finance minister. He, of course, won the Hazaribagh seat, and he's being tipped off as somebody who could perhaps come in as a Minister of State for Finance. There are also lesser, in fact, profile kind of people like Hansraj Ahir, who was there in the standing committee of Parliament and had an important role in the Colgate scam revelations. He could also be accommodated. Names of Babul Supriya doing the rounds, in fact, who won that Asansol seat in West Bengal, these elections on a BJP ticket. So big shake-up likely. Smita, do hang on with me. Let me also get in Rajdeep Sardesai, a consulting editor at this point in time. Rajdeep, whether Parrikar will get the defence ministry or not is still under the realm of speculation as of now. But one thing is for sure, that he is coming to Delhi, and it seems that Prime Minister Modi has been able to convince him for that.
That's right. It appears almost certain. Sources close to Mr. Parrikar have just told me that he has finally agreed reluctantly to move to Delhi. Remember, Manohar Parrikar was made the Chief Minister of Goa just over 2 years ago, and he was very keen to stay on in Goa because he has complete control over the administration there. It was always his dream to complete a full 5-year term in Goa. He had been denied that when he had been in office in the past. So he was keen to sort of impose his imprint on Goa's politics. But after that late night meeting, it appears that Mr. Parrikar has finally agreed, and it is most likely that he will be made defence minister. And already there is talk now in Goa about who will replace Mr. Parrikar if he is to move to Delhi. But all indications are that he has accepted the offer which the Prime Minister has given, albeit reluctantly, and has decided to move to Delhi.
Right. Now, with Modi's plans that he's laid out in the previous few months as far as the Defence Ministry is concerned, Rajdeep, what are the factors really working for Parrikar if he is to be the next Defence Minister?
There are two considerations. Mr. Parrikar is seen as a man of integrity in terms of his personal honesty. He's also seen as extremely efficient. He's a former IIT graduate, and he's seen as someone who has many of the qualities that Narendra Modi is seen to have. In fact, in Goa, he's sometimes referred to by both his adversaries and people within his government as Chota Modi. He's seen as someone who's tough, he's seen as someone who's efficient, and he's seen as someone with a reputation for personal honesty. Given these qualities, Defence Ministry is seen to be the kind of portfolio where Narendra Modi, the Prime Minister, wants someone who will bring a sense of vigor, as well as will be seen as someone who's personally honest. So I think those qualities have gone in his favour. He also enjoys the backing of the RSS, which not too long ago actually wanted him to be BJP president. The fact is, Manohar Parrikar over the years has developed a reputation of being a good administrator and, importantly, of being a tough, no-nonsense person. So it clearly suggests that the Prime Minister wants in his top 4 as Finance Minister, as Defence Minister, as External Affairs Minister, people whom he can trust and people whom he believes will deliver results. I think Mr. Parrikar's being brought to Delhi also suggests that there isn't that large pool of talent available to the BJP here in Delhi. So Mr. Parrikar becomes a choice moving in from Goa, and 2 names are doing the rounds to replace him. There is Francis D'Souza, the Deputy Chief Minister, and Rajendra Alerkar, who is the Speaker. So already there is talk now in Goa of who will replace Mr. Parrikar should he move to Delhi as early as Sunday.
Right, Rajdeep, thanks so much for joining us with those inputs. Coming back to you, Smita, so clearly Modi has made his intent clear when he approached Parrikar that he wants someone who has to be a decision maker, a tough taskmaster, someone who is a reflection of the Prime Minister himself. And for that, Parrikar seems to be the perfect choice for the Defence Minister. Give us a sense of what else are your sources telling you about how things will develop from here on till Sunday or Monday when we're expecting that shake-up in the cabinet to take place?
In fact, Sana, Rajdeep is not with us on the line anymore now, but if you really listen to what he was saying, he used the word reluctantly quite a few times.
That's right.
You know, that it was albeit reluctantly that Manohar Parrikar has really agreed, of course, that he has that vision for Goa. But some of these sections within the party also seem to feel that, you know, perhaps these chief ministers who have their own individual personas and who have proven themselves as able administrators, like I mentioned Raman Singh's name earlier, they're not too comfortable coming into New Delhi, where they think perhaps that they will be, of course, under the shadow of the Prime Minister. The space will be reduced. They'll have much more space while ruling a state. So that could also be one of the reasons of the reluctance. Regardless, but we must also remember that Manohar Parrikar is somebody who's always had Narendra Modi's confidence and was one of the first proposers that, you know, who came out really in the open in support of having Narendra Modi as BJP's Prime Ministerial candidate
That's
in
right.
the 2014 elections. So, you know, if things really move fast, if Mr. Narendra Modi does discuss, of course, those portfolios and everything with Mr. Pranab Mukherjee, then we might actually have the new inductions happening as early as Monday itself.
Absolutely. So that could be the Prime Minister's way of thanking Manohar Parrikar for his support and confidence at that time, but he's taking that reluctantly. But thanks, Smita, for joining us there with the latest input.